Good day, friends. This is Professor Adrian Kennedy, and today we are talking about nutrition. Nutrition and lifestyle. You could take the subject of nutrition from different perspectives. For example, if a dietitian were to talk about nutrition, they would talk about it from the point of view of the nutritional and dietary aspect. As a lifestyle specialist, I am talking about nutrition and its relationship with the way we live, the impact that it has on the diseases we have, the way we can manage our lifestyle to benefit. In my talk today, I will talk about 5 or 6 important aspects of nutrition. The first aspect is basic nutrition. What is digestion? What are the nutritional values of the food that we eat? I will then talk about calories and metabolism. How do you evaluate the food you eat in terms of the energy? How does your body metabolize and utilize the food we eat? In these modern days, we all hear about diets all the time. Which are the good diets? Which are the bad diets? Which are the medical diets? And of course, with more than 60 to 70% of the human race being overweight, about 20 to 30% being obese, we will talk about weight management. And in these modern days, everything comes in the form of a pill or comes from a bottle, and therefore we will talk about supplements, minerals, vitamins, and so on. When you talk about basic nutrition, the first question you ask is, what are the different food groups? Now, I asked this question to a group of school children with whom I was talking about nutrition. I said, what are the basic food groups? And they answered, McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and Baskin Robbins. These are the 5 main food groups. Now, we all know the implications of this simple understanding by our children, and it has found its way into impacting even adults. If you were to look at an executive diet, and I have the good fortune of evaluating almost 100,000 executives every year, and I take the annual statistics from my findings, I find that 48% have insufficient complex carbohydrate. I will explain what complex carbohydrate is. 58% have insufficient fruit and vegetables, which is probably the single most important component of nutrition. 54% have a high-fat diet, which we know clogs the arteries. 49% have a high sugar intake, which is relevant to diabetes. 35% have commercial foods or a fast food intake, which is relevant to cancer. 55% have a heavy nighttime meal, which correlates with obesity. And more than 50% of our highly qualified executives know precious little about nutrition. And therefore the effect, again, taken from the research that I have or that I do, 42% of our executives are overweight, 37% are sedentary and do not exercise, 49% are consequently physically unfit, 50% have high levels of stress, 34% have excess alcohol, and 13% are smokers. As a consequence, the impact of these lifestyle habits on their disease pattern 21% are cardiac risk, 19% have high blood pressure, 15% diabetes, and 17% have cholesterol. Now, the food we eat is connected to all these factors. And therefore, we talk about nutrition in relation to lifestyle, the way we live. Now, if you go back to your textbooks, you will find that food groups is not McDonald's or Kentucky Chicken or Taco Bell or Baskin Robbins. Food groups actually comprises of cereal and grain, vegetables and fruit, milk and meat, oils and sugar, and of late, it is built on a foundation of exercise and activity, which means that there is a direct correlation between the food you eat and the activity that you need to do. Now, of the food groups, we eat them in different ratios that would then be optimal for our health. 50 to 60% will come from cereals, such as white wheat and maize. 20% which gives us energy, of course. 20% will come from fruits and vegetables, which has fiber and therefore helps in defecation. 10 to 15% will come from vegetable protein, which would mean that you would get the protein without the cholesterol and the fat. And then you have 10% which comes from, or which should come from, meat proteins. And of course, you have the condiments or the things that are essential for taste, and that is fat and sugar, which is about 10% of the food that you eat. Now, all the food in all the food groups, if you were to look at it from a technical perspective, you would refer to them as macronutrients, micronutrients are the two major components. And in the macronutrients, you have carbohydrate, protein, and fat, which means that all foods have differing quantities of protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Now, where does carbohydrate come from? It comes from grain, vegetable, and fruits, and it gives us, as I mentioned earlier, fiber for defecation and starch for energy. And then you have protein. You have the vegetable protein, which is referred here to as B-class protein, and A-class protein has all the 18 amino acids, which then is totally beneficial to the body. Incomplete proteins would need to be eaten with other foods in order to become complete. So you have beans, for example, with wheat, and it then becomes a complete protein. It functions better. And protein is required for growth and repair. Growth in children and repair of tissue in adults. Millions of cells die every day. The repair of these cells is managed by the protein that we eat. And then, of course, you have fat, which gives you energy. It is stored in the body. In the unfortunate event of you're not eating food, this is converted into energy. Otherwise, it is storage, and it comes in different forms. You have saturated and unsaturated fats, of which the saturated fat is the hard fat, which should be avoided. It's the fat that you can see on meat, or it's butter and cheese and things like that. And then you have MUFA and PUFA, that is, those are unsaturated fats, which are liquid and therefore beneficial. And then you have cholesterol, which is protein-related fat, and triglycerides, which is vegetable-related or starch-related fats, both of which can be bad if taken in excess. So fat, by and large, is storage It is helpful to the body as long as it does not exceed the required amounts. That was the macronutrients, and now the micronutrients, which comprise of the minerals, the vitamins, and the antioxidants. Minerals are important for health, and so are vitamins and antioxidants. And there is a couple of slides which comes later, which explains what these things are. But for the moment, let's say that vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants are the therapeutic aspects of nutrition. For example, vitamin A, which comes from carrots, is good for the eyes. Vitamin D is good for the bones. Iron is good for the blood. Calcium is again good for the bones. And then you have antioxidants, which purify the blood. All of these can come naturally from foods. And the food that you eat is digested. You masticate or chew the food, and in the mouth, it's the carbohydrate that is assimilated or digested. It then goes down to the stomach, where the gastric juice acts upon the protein. The food then moves within the next half hour or so, or even less, 20 minutes. It moves into the small intestine, specifically the duodenum, in which you have the bile juice, the pancreatic juice, which are secreted, and these convert carbohydrate to glucose, protein to amino acids, and fat to fatty acids and glycerol. It is in this aspect, in this molecular stage of glucose, amino acid, and glycerol or fatty acids that foods get absorbed into the bloodstream. And this absorption happens in the small intestine. The food is then passed on in about 2 to 3 hours to the large intestine, where food remains, which is to be evacuated. It has no more nutritional value, but the water is absorbed, or the fluid is absorbed. It goes into the kidneys, where it is purified. The impure water is released as urine, and the purified water goes back into circulation. The food is stored as fat in different parts of the body and also in the liver. How do you measure food? If you measure distance in kilometers and height in meters or feet and inches, and weight in kgs, how do you measure food? Food is measured in terms of calories, and that is the amount of energy that they contain, or the energy that they make available to the human body. Metabolism is the total process of converting food into energy. So under this heading of calories and metabolism, we will talk about the food we eat, how the body utilizes it, how much energy is required for various types of activity, how do we balance calorie intake and calorie output. Over here you see a chart that has different types of foods. You have bread with butter, jam, and cheese. On the other side, you have spaghetti with meat sauce. And if you were to look at the spaghetti aspect, you will find that a plate of spaghetti has 450 calories, which is the energy it can give you, or a hamburger, one piece would be about 250 calories, depending upon the size. And then you have steak and salad and fish and chips, and so on and so forth, which means that all foods have a calorie value. Not only do foods have calorie values, all fluids also have calorie values, except for water, as you can see, which has 0 calorie value. It's good for hydration, but it cannot give you energy. But a cup of tea and coffee will give you 45 calories of instant energy. Not only will it give you energy, but it will also give you nutrients. So the food that you eat contains nutrients that gives you energy. The nutrients are used in the body, and the fat and the sugar in the food gives you energy, which is what we are talking about in terms of eating. Now, all the activities that you do also can be measured in terms of calories. If you walk for 1 hour, you will burn approximately 250 calories. Now, bear in mind that this is a general figure. For example, if you are 60 kgs, you will burn less calories as opposed to an individual who is 90 calories or 90 kgs. So the heavier you are, the heavier the load, and therefore you would require more energy. This calorie count is for an individual who is about 70 kgs. So walking 250 calories, gardening 300 calories, manual labor 350 calories, and then you go into exercises. And the more aerobic the exercise is, the more active the exercise is. For example, running and swimming, you will burn 550 calories per hour. And the amazing thing is that 550 calories is almost equivalent to the size of a normal meal. And this becomes extremely important when you are balancing your calorie intake. We'll talk about that in the next few slides. In my research, I've discovered that an adult, especially in the Asian region, consumes about 2,500 calories. As a matter of fact, I should correct myself and say that an executive usually consumes about 2,500 calories a day. If you were to take his breakfast, lunch, tea, and dinner, it would be in the region of 2,500 calories. The good news is that 50% of this amount is utilized even if he were to sleep the whole day, which means that for the body's existence, for the body's survival, digestion, respiration, circulation, and so on and so forth, the body needs energy. And that energy comes from the food that we eat. And we burn approximately 1,200 calories, again, relevant to your body weight. This is approximately 70 odd kgs. Most of us work for 8 hours a day, and we burn approximately, depending upon how active or sedentary our job is, we burn approximately 100 calories per hour. So 8 hours would be in the region of about 600 to 800 calories as mentioned here. Now, if you add the 2 up, it comes to 1,800 calories. And what do? We usually go home and sit down and watch the TV. Now, when you do that, there is minimal expenditure on activity, and therefore you have a calorie surplus. Now, this calorie surplus of 700 calories taken into about 5 or 6 days would be 350 calories in a week, which is equivalent to 1 pound of fat. So what we are saying then is that a sedentary individual who eats 2,500 calories will put on approximately 1 pound of fat every week on his body. And therefore you see a fat, obese body. So how do you remedy that? How do you balance your calories? How can you eat 2,500 calories and utilize 2,500 calories? There are 2 ways to do that. One way is to eat less, of course. The healthier way is to do exercise. If you exercise for 1 hour a day, you will burn the additional 700 calories. you will have a calorie deficit of 500 calories a day, and therefore you will balance your intake and output. 2,500 calories in, 2,500 calories utilized will keep your body slim and healthy. There are several types of diets. Some types of diets are good for you and some types of diets are not good for you. And then, of course, you have the therapeutic diets, which is the essential diet for individuals with certain ailments. We'll talk about each of these. Children do not require dieting. Children must eat abundantly, but it is also important, look at the last sentence, it is also important that they should have abundant physical activity. So a child may eat at random, eat the right foods in the right quantities at the right time, but in order to remain healthy, the child must go out and play. And that is the lifestyle component of nutrition. The child may eat well and must also play actively. It is exactly the opposite with adults. Exactly the opposite. The adult must eat less because the food that you eat is used by energy, and somehow we have no energy to spend growing the way our children need the energy for growth. If at all we grow sideways and seem to put on extra fat. So the human adult should eat between 1,500 to 2,000 calories, 2,000 to male and 1,500 to female, and they must do exercise activity at the rate of approximately 1 hour a day. Now, while the children can participate in vigorous activity, moderate activity is good enough for adults. Sportsmen, of course, will have higher diets and consequently will utilize will have higher levels of physical activity. Never diet while pregnant. Do not diet while lactating or breastfeeding. This is the diet plus, meaning that you need additional calories in order to nurture the child that is being born or to feed the child that has just been born. So you have an additional about 350 calories beyond your 2,000 or 2,500 calories. So you will have an additional 300 calories specifically for lactation or nurturing the child that is being born. And don't forget the small print which says your folic acid, your protein, your vitamins A, D, E, and K, sufficient fiber, and most important, always talk to your doctor and your nutritionist. We've heard about health foods and we've heard about fast foods. So what are the health foods? Health foods are cereals, vegetable and fruit, dairy products, meat and bones, meat and beans, which is the protein, vegetable, and fluids. And the quantities are mentioned here in terms of 40% or 30% or 6 to 8 glasses, as the case may be. The screen is in front of you. You are not only listening to my words, but you are also certainly seeing, as I say, the small print on the screen. If you are to eat the health foods, then you must avoid the fast foods or the empty calorie foods or the foods that have no value, sugar, salt, fat, processed foods, commercial foods. These foods are detrimental to your health. You may say that the health foods gives you antioxidants, which strengthens the body's reserves, improves your immunity, and kills the free radical cells. The free radicals come from things like smoking cigarettes, eating commercial foods. These are free radicals which impact your cellular structure and therefore go on to form cancer. So therefore, you need antioxidants to eradicate the free radicals in the body. And what are these health foods? They could be organic, which means that they are grown without fertilizer, preferably in your backyard or within the city in which you live, and they are fresh, they're not refrigerated, they are not iced and kept on the shelf for a long period of time. And these health foods comprise fruits and vegetables, and you notice that I do not differentiate between different types of fruits, I do not differentiate between fruits, I do not select vegetables, whatever is seasonal is appropriate, and then we have whole wheat, whole grain products and pulses, dairy product, skimmed rather than high fat, condiments instead of sugar, and fluids. While there are several fluids named, remember the premier fluid is water. The others, of course, have their benefits, but the premier fluid is water, especially if you are not unwell. If you are unwell, I can understand you having a fruit juice. Now, therapeutic diets are those diets that need to be medically managed. You've got hypertension and cardiac ailments, and you can see that the cause is obesity, inappropriate diet, alcohol, inactivity, stress and smoking. All these cause high blood pressure. And the lifestyle change that you need to bring about is modification of diet, reduce fat, reduce salt, increase fiber, have your medicine. If you do not, it will result in a cardiac ailment. Diabetes is rampant. The causes could be genetic, inactivity, advanced age, obesity, excess food. And how do you manage it? By eating complex carbohydrate, by having small meals, by having exercise activity, by managing weight, and by having medication. And the same could be said of cancer. You add to everything I've said in terms of cause, add to that smoking and commercial foods, and you have cancer. How do you manage cancer? Besides medical treatment of surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy, food, natural foods, fresh, uncooked vegetables and fruit will give you all the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants you need to keep yourself free or to manage your cancer. In these modern days, many of us tend to have allergies, and these allergies can be quite dangerous. Try and detect early what foods you are allergic to. I, for example, am allergic to shellfish, or I'm allergic to fish per se, but shellfish and prawns in particular. And what do I get as a consequence? When I eat it, I get urticaria, hives, or skin rash. Now, while this is uncomfortable, it is not debilitating. But there are many other ailments, there are many other foods that can cause breathing difficulty. You could be allergic to nuts and beans and wheat and eggs and so on and so forth. And your allergic reaction could be breathing difficulty. Now, this is a life-threatening problem. Consult your doctor immediately. It is important for each of us to know our food allergies. And now we talk about different types of diets, the good ones and the bad ones. I shouldn't use the word bad ones but let's just say the ones that do not seem to be balanced. You have a diet over here, the Atkins diet, which is high in protein, guaranteed to give you a 5 kg weight loss at the end of 15 days, but high in protein, low in carbohydrate, low in fruit, low in vegetables. And then you have the opposite, the low carbohydrate diet. This is a diet which avoids carbohydrates. Again, avoid cereal, rice, potatoes, anything that gives you starch. It's a low starch diet, and it's guaranteed to give you a 30 kg weight loss in 2 weeks. A very popular diet is the GM diet, the General Motors diet. On day 1, you eat only fruit. On day 2, only vegetable in any form, in any quantity. And then fruit and vegetables. And the next day, bananas. And thereafter, meat. And thereafter, meat and vegetable. And there you go through your week by eating different single foods on any given day. And of course, you have, as a fluid, you have a soup. What is wrong with these diets? What is wrong with these diets is that they are not balanced. They do not contain the right mix of protein, carbohydrate, fat and sugar. I'm sorry, fat and fluid. A very good diet is the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is a diet that is known to help its participants to live long. In the Mediterranean, we have this diet. It's known as a life diet. You notice that you have high consumption of grain and bread, whole wheat, pasta, potatoes, rice, beans, a moderate level, about 10% of dairy products and fish, a little bit of oil, olive oil, which is monosaturated, and at least an hour or 2 of physical activity in terms of walking. This is an excellent diet. And then you have the alternative diet, or also known as the raw food diet, or the naturopathic diet. You have natural foods, uncooked foods. They improve the alkaline balance, reduces the acidic content of the body, and therefore is purifying the blood, reduces the probabilities of sugar. And you also have a day every week with no meal. And then, of course, you have the recommended diet, which is probably the best known medical diet. It's called the DASH diet. It's good for hypertension and cardiac ailments. It's whole grain, fruit and vegetable, low dairy, low fat, lean meat, and nuts and seeds. So you have the good diets and the bad diets. The good diets to be eaten, such as the Mediterranean, the naturopathic or the natural diet, or the raw food diet of meat or of vegetables and fruit, and the DASH diet, the diet against hypertension, the DASH diet. But 60% to 80% of our population is overweight. How do you evaluate weight? First of all, you have the height-weight range, which I will show you in the next chapter. And then you have other things like body fat measurement, waist to height measurement, and so on and so forth. The best, easiest way to do this is simply to look at your height-weight chart. And over here you have a chart for Asians. For Europeans who are bigger built, you add 5 kgs to each number over here. But for the rest of us Asians, At 5 feet, you should weigh not more than 65 kgs of male and not more than 55 kgs a female. And at 6 feet, you should weigh not more than 77 kgs or 80 kgs as male and about 67 to 70 kgs as female. This is Asian. Add to that 5 kgs if you are European to the higher end. So if you are beyond these numbers, it would then mean that you are overweight. If you are way beyond these numbers, it would mean that you are obese. And what are the causes of obesity? Often family history is cited as an example, but the major factors are eating too much and doing too little exercise activity. Eating too much and doing too little exercise activity. There are other factors such as age, gender. Remember that most of our ladies tend to have more body fat than the male. The lady body fat ratio is 25%, naturally given, and the male is 18%. So obviously their propensity to put on weight is more. But broadly speaking, I would like to stay with the fact that you could have a genetic disposition, but in case you overeat and under-exercise, you are a good client for being obese. What are the hazards of obesity? Heart disease, cancer, diabetes and hypertension, snoring or sleep apnea, psychological problems, joint problems, multiple comorbidities, hypertension, diabetes, and high waist circumference, and so on and so forth, which only adds to your cardiac and other such risks. So how do you manage weight? There are 3 ways to do this. The best is lifestyle, but sometimes you need medical support in terms of medication and sometimes even bariatric surgery. Who requires surgery? Individuals who are grossly overweight. If my body weight is meant to be 80 kgs and I turn out to be 160 or 170 kgs and I have coexisting morbidities such as hypertension or diabetes, then I may, with my physician's approval, look at surgery for reducing or releasing or taking away the excess body weight. This is purely a medical decision and purely taken on medical grounds, that by not doing the surgery, the life of the individual is threatened. If you are simply 20 kgs above weight, bordering obesity or in the range of obesity but not morbidly obese, you could talk to your doctor, and if he sees appropriate, and you have other conditions such as diabetes and hypertension and so on and so forth, you could resort to drug therapy, or he will give you medication by which you don't feel like eating too much, your metabolism increases, and therefore you burn more energy or less food is absorbed, and so on and so forth. But exercise activity during this period is compulsory. For the rest of us who do not require medical attention, there is nothing better than lifestyle change, exercise in terms of strength, stamina, and flexibility. Exercise program, 1 hour of exercise every day. To increase the heart rate, you could do 3 days a week with gym training to increase your metabolism due to extra muscle, and you could do this almost every day at the rate of about 1 hour every day. It's a good way to manage weight. Some tips on weight management. The major tip is right at the bottom: intake and output. Be sure that the intake that you have in terms of calories is equivalent to the output, which means if you have 1 hour of exercise every day, you have a light meal at night, a heavy meal during the day, so that you can manage your energy requirements. A heavy meal at night only adds to body fat. If you can do that, that should be good enough. But otherwise, please do read these tips on weight management. Here are some more tips of foods to avoid. Avoid sugar, avoid fats, avoid too much of dairy products such as butter and cheese, avoid fried foods, and on the reverse, eat sufficient fruit and vegetable, and in case you need to be supported, take the support of your family. Eat a light dinner, a medium lunch, and a heavy breakfast. This will give you energy through the day and leave no surplus energy to be converted into fat. Now, if you have a normal diet, a balanced diet, then you don't need supplements. The only ones who need supplements are individuals that are old, infirm, and sick. Now, there are different types of supplements. It could be a supplement per se, as you see over here, garlic oil, omega oil, or vitamins. They could be these supplements, and they are beneficial for different aspects: heart health, cancer, immune systems, vitality, sleep. Have a look at these supplements. The University of Iowa has made this, has validated these, and therefore they are quite acceptable. So these are supplements available in forms or in bottles as a fluid and or as pills. More commonly known supplements include nutraceuticals, such as vitamins and minerals. You have vitamin A, for example, which is good for vision, and you've got the therapeutic amount of RDF 500 international units. But it also comes, and have a look at the dietary sources. From milk, eat milk, eggs, meat, fish, leafy vegetables, carrots, orange fruits, and vegetables, which means that you can get these nutraceuticals not only from a bottle, but also from natural foods. You have vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin C, vitamin B. Vitamin A is good for the eyes, vitamin D is good for bones and calcium, vitamin E is good for assimilation of fat and fatty acids, vitamin C for scurvy and wound healing, and vitamin B for overall protein synthesis. And then you have the minerals, calcium, which can come in the form of a pill, but it can also come from green leafy vegetables. It can also come from milk, sardines, and so on and so forth. So you have calcium for bones, chromium for glucose metabolism, iodine and iron especially for red blood cells, and so on and so forth. You could also have it in form of a pill. As healthy young adults, the dietary source is excellent. As older individuals, the therapeutic dose in addition to the dietary source will be very, very valuable. And then you have the antioxidants, and these antioxidants purify the blood. They strengthen your cells, and they cannibalize cancer cells. So you have foods like tea and wine, garlic and onions, cruciferous vegetables, soya, flaxseed oil, fish oil. All of these have benefits. They reduce cancer risk. They reduce blood clotting, works against osteoporosis, Flaxseed oil is good for the nervous system. Omega-3 is good for health and reduces hypertension, and so on and so forth. Every year we come up with new findings, and this was the last finding, which was about 5 years back. It says that as of 2014, the complex field of nutrition has agreed that vegetables and fruits are good, that eggs and meat are also good, that protein is good, that saturated fat is good. I may not agree with all of this. I would prefer unsaturated fats, but this is the American Nutrition Council's findings. Low carbohydrate is good. Milled and flour rice, I agree with this, is bad. Low sodium is not necessary. Coffee and tea is good. And I definitely agree that commercial foods are bad. Friends, I want to thank you very much for listening to this session of mine on nutrition. In case you would like to contact me for any clearing of doubts, my email is given right at the bottom of this page. Thank you very much.